Can we do cardio while we are bulking? Hey everybody, I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. This is actually a really common question. This is a question I see a lot, and I think it's one that really needs to be addressed, but it needs to be addressed with some nuance. Although the short answer will be yes, you absolutely can do cardio while bulking. You do need to pay attention to adjusting your food intake around it, and you need to pay attention to recovery. But as long as you are able to recover from the cardiovascular conditioning you are doing, you will be able to bulk and do cardio successfully without it interfering. All right, and for those who don't understand what this principle is behind bulking, the idea of bulking, and again, there's going to be some nuance here. The idea behind bulking is the idea of overeating, eating in a calorie surplus for the purpose of gaining weight, because gaining weight is generally necessary to gain muscle. In other words, gaining muscle and losing fat at the same time is not impossible. It is difficult to do, and obviously the leaner you are, the harder it is to do, and the longer you have been training, the harder it is to do. Okay? So we need to keep that in context. So a lot of times people are going to need to actively gain weight in order to gain muscle. Like if your goal is to gain 3 pounds of muscle, unless you plan on losing 3 pounds of body fat along the way somewhere, you're going to have to gain 3 pounds of body weight. That muscle has to weigh something. And again, with the condition being that obviously I'm not talking about getting fat. Now that is kind of what we call the old school dreamer type bulk, where we bulk a lot and then cut down. And the point I'm going to make with that, before we get into this nuance, that is not necessary unless you got absolutely shredded. Okay, we're not talking about pre-contest bodybuilders. That is a very, very, very tiny demographic. The overwhelming majority of people out there are never going to diet down shredded and lean enough to an unsustainable body fat. Now, if you happen to be that less than 1% of people who will ever do that, who work out, and you compete in bodybuilding or some sort of physique competition, yes, you will probably have to bulk and gain some fat afterwards, because you can't train or sustain that level of body fat. All right, that's understood. And then a lot of times those people already have a six-pack and they diet down leaner for 3, 4, 5 months to even get ready for a show again. People who are starting as lean, or if not leaner than I am right here, and then spend 5 months dieting down. Okay, context. For everyone else, if we start looking at the available research, it actually shows that gaining weight more than a very, very small amount doesn't even cause muscle growth. So we need to be clear when we're talking about the bulking. In other words, for anyone other than an absolute complete rank novice, if you're exceeding even a pound, that is about 400 grams for those who don't use freedom units. If you're exceeding about a pound of body weight per month in your weight gain, you are gaining mostly fat. You're not even gaining lean tissue. Furthermore, the studies show that even gaining at that sort of weight, like a 10% calorie surplus, does not cause any more additional muscle growth, right? It causes only fat gains over even a 3 or a 4% calorie surplus. Well, how small is that? It means if your maintenance, this is how small that is. If your maintenance is 3,000 calories, that is really only about 100 calories, about 3,100. 100 calorie surplus per day has been shown in studies looking at this to maximize all of the muscle growth from a calorie surplus. That is actually sufficient because it's enough to cause a small amount of weight gain. Okay, and we need to be clear, it is not necessary to gain fat other than the original kind of exception I gave to the rule, to gain muscle and to even gain muscle optimally. Okay, lean gains are totally possible. Now that we have that out of the way, we've got to then look at, well, how hard is it really to eat enough to gain weight? It's relatively easy. The exceptions would be people with extremely high energy outputs. Okay, people with extremely demanding jobs, maybe work in the heat all day and they have low appetites. Okay, it's harder for those people. But even then, how many construction workers and other people still manage to get fat? They still eat enough junk, they can pull it off. Now, the trick is for a lot of people, they're like, well, I can't eat really clean and do that. I struggle with it. Well, in that case, then that's because you're choosing to eat that way. And I don't have a problem with that. But if you come back over and look at the other point, you don't need that much of a surplus. It can be very small. And in fact, if you're not losing any weight, you're probably doing okay. You're probably pretty close. As long as you're seeing a very tiny, a pound here or there going up over the course of months, you're probably maximizing muscle growth if your training is dialed. So let's come over and talk about the calorie and the cardio. If you're doing a bunch of HIIT cardio, yeah, you're going to have to account for that. Interval training, sprinting, high intensity cardio, yes, it will interfere with your leg workouts because it is a serious workout. Just like as if you added 3 extra squat days every week, you might not be able to recover from that. So yes, if you're adding 3 serious sprinting sessions, but it's not because you're doing cardio, it's because you're doing a lot of high intensity training. Yes, as if you try to do too much lifting, you can reach an overtrained condition on the recovery side. But if you're doing more intermediate cardio or lower intensity cardio, you might see a small negative impact in your performance and your gains for a few weeks. Once your body gets used to it, it will be fine. In other words, you can do very light jogging if you're adapted to it, and it will not interfere at all. You can do, cycling or whatever, as long as it's not high intensity. Just doing normal cardio shouldn't interfere with muscle growth. And I'm not saying there can't be some interference effect. There absolutely is in the data. But here's the thing that people aren't factoring in. Food itself is anabolic. Carbohydrates are very anabolic to muscle tissue. Okay? If you were burning an extra 300 or 400 calories a day through your cardio, through all this extra maybe just low intensity cardio, what's going to be the end result? You're going to have to make that up on food. And if you're consuming that in anabolic foods that are good for building muscle, you're going to get a hormonal response that's positive towards the muscle growth. So even if you're getting a minor interference effect from the cardio, the extra food that it allows you to eat, or actually, should I say, forces you to eat if you're trying to gain weight, because keeping in mind, your metabolism adapts. When we are actively training hard and we start eating more to gain weight, our energy turnover starts going up. Our maintenance calories tend to go up. So yes, as long as you offset that, it's been kind of my observation with most lifters, it doesn't interfere with their muscle growth at all. And I honestly think it is because any minor interference effect from the cardio is being offset by the additional anabolic effect of the food, bridging the gap there. So I personally feel like the net result is that it's fine. And it doesn't necessarily help you stay leaner per se, because I don't think it's going to really do that. Some people try to do that and think that's what's going to happen. I don't think it is. Don't believe it is, never observed it to be so much, but it can be good for your health. And particularly when you're in a calorie surplus, gaining weight, keeping up with your health is a good idea. So it's possibly just a good, healthy thing to do. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys and gals next time.